Hello and welcome to For the Love of Learning. And during this show, what we do is we highlight some of our wonderful academic programs here and the lovely faculty members and leaders that actually are behind teaching the courses for those programs. I'm your host, Dr. Carl S. Moore, and today I have with me Bill Gillette.
Hey.
Hey, Bill. Bill, sincerely, thank you for being here today because this is our first show. And this is one of many where we'll highlight all of the really cool things that you all are doing. We really want the community to hear more about you as a person, your programs, and some of the nuances. So might you be able to introduce yourself and share a little bit with us?
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm very excited to be here, your first guest on this program. My name is Bill Gillette. I'm an associate professor of theater here at Howard Community College. I'm also the chair of dance and theater and audio, video, media production, and entertainment technology, 4 programs that are great here at the college that I get to oversee.
Oh, wonderful. So now, do you said dance, and maybe that we'll make that as a part of the show. Do you have a dance move you want? No, I'm just kidding.
Not really, but I got to tell you though, theater is my background. I was a professional actor for many years and a director, and then I got into higher education. I worked actually at a local regional theater as an education director for a while, and then I got into higher education, and I was at Carroll Community College, then moved to Howard Community College. When I got here, it was the first time I was asked to sort of help give leadership, although I really count on my faculty for that, for a dance program. I've learned so much. I've really grown to appreciate the whole discipline and what's going on there and the work that goes into creating these dance pieces. And I got to tell you, at our college, we have an amazing dance program. Very strong faculty, very well prepared to be teaching our students, and very excited to see what comes out, especially with their dance programs. We have one coming up in November, which is called our Dance Showcase, which is all faculty choreographers as well as student choreographers sharing the same experience and creating great works. And it's an evening of just really great dancing. I enjoy it every year. And then we'll have a dance company concert in spring, which will be guest choreographers working with our students creating great dance pieces.
That's a really cool thing about some of the your discipline or the areas that you provide leadership for and teach in, because it's the performance is that kind of assessment, right? It's like the theory to practice right away. It's not just a theoretical, and you may display it later in life. Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about some of the things that you love, or some aspects, I should say, that you love teaching theater, or that you've kind of gleaned from what the some of the other faculty in your departments love about the teaching?
Well, I got to tell you, all these disciplines that I get to chair are all these hands-on experiences, right? Experiential learning. Right? They're engaged in these performances. We're about to have a theater performance opening this week of The Skin of Our Teeth by Thornton Wilder, and that is these students are getting this great immersive experience of being in this play and finding out what it means to really take on the craft in a very professional way. Our audio video media production folks are using this technology to create videos, including our faculty in that area is going to have an art exhibit piece coming up in this academic year. Wow. And that's going to be a great thing to see, as well as our entertainment technology folks who are doing all the work to support theater and dance and live performance. And these folks doing this degree are going to go out and get jobs right away.
Right. That's huge.
Yeah.
So we have our program. It's really awesome. And this is good for the community to hear about the types of programs, what happens in the classroom, but then the jobs afterwards. Could you speak a little bit more to that? So if I'm a student and I'm coming to HCC, if I want to actually get a job right after or do something during versus if I want to transfer, can you tell us a little bit about what a student should expect as it relates to some of the programs?
Sure. We're hoping that our dance and our theater and our AVMP students, we're hoping that they're planning on transferring to a 4-year college.
That would be the most successful thing for them to do in terms of,
so they can continue their learning. But there are students that, especially some dance students who are using the time while they're young and strong, and they're going on getting jobs after that 2-year degree, and working at everything from Disney to Broadway. Quite honestly,
wow.
Yeah.
So if not that you have to go through each program, but just a few programs, what they will learn here, or a few things, and then what how it will help them in like the curriculum thereafter, or like when they transfer to whatever institution.
Well, we've worked really hard to make these programs as transferable as possible, right? So they're getting that developmental education that they need, the foundational, I guess the better word, education they need, so they're going to be successful at their four-year colleges. And the four-year colleges are giving us the feedback saying your students are prepared, your students are ready, and we love taking your students into our programs. That's fantastic.
That's really great
to hear.
Yeah.
And we've made sure that we're offering those courses that are going to feed directly into the four-year programs, and they're going to be successful.
That's awesome. And so let's go drill right into one of your classes, right? What are some approaches or like strategies that you use when you're teaching? It's always, there's this thing, rate my professor.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's used much anymore when I was an undergrad, but you never, as a student, you don't, or even as a parent, you don't get a chance to hear from the faculty member themselves. Hey, these are some of the activities that we use in class, and this is what I do to promote this. So you can just give us some details about, the kind of how you promote learning. And that's one of the reasons why we named the show For the Love of Learning, because I know that all the chairs, faculty who teach, we love learning,
right.
And the students, hopefully, right, we know that they're loving learning in terms of coming in. So giving them a little bit of under the hood of what you do and the intention behind it in some of your classes.
I have loved teaching all of the theater classes that I've been able to teach, which has been everything from theater history to intro to theater to I've taught stage makeup. I've taught some elemental design courses for the theater, but I really, really love teaching acting. That's my sort of passion, is to teach acting.
Okay.
And what they learn in the class is they're going to learn the difference between the art of acting and what maybe they've learned previously, which was more of the show of acting, right?
The art versus the show.
Right. The art is going to be a little more in depth. We're gonna really dive into these characters and learn how to make them true and believable and honest on stage. We want people to watch these characters on stage and go and see a life and not necessarily a performance. Right. We don't want them to look and go, they're performing. We want them to look and go, wow, I really believe.
I love that kind of nuance.
I believed the journey they went on. And in order for that art to happen, it takes a lot of work to develop these students' ability to analyze the text and the characters and the life of these characters, and then just to have the abilities to give themselves permission to live these characters in the way the characters need to be lived.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that when they can do that, when they have that moment of just really believing themselves and really believing the characters and letting the characters take over and live the lives they need to live, it's like you can see a little epiphany go off in their brains, right? A little moment of, oh, this is what acting
That's
is.
exciting.
This is what the art is of theater, right? A lot of people think they know theater, right? They've seen a lot of.
We've all watched the movies.
Interviews, you've seen movies.
You've
done that, and a lot of people believe, well, I did theater in high school, so I know theater. And I got to tell you, theater is performance acting is a little more complicated than that. It takes discipline, and it takes commitment, and it takes a real understanding of the nuances of human behavior in order to make it really true.
Right. So if you have me in your class or a group of students and you want to teach some of those things and then assess them all together or evaluate, the performance, what is like a strategy that you would, or like an activity that you would do to teach like authenticness or sincerity or I'm just throwing out words, just like something that a student comes in your class having any degree of that competency or skill, but that you do this activity or these series of assignments, and then you evaluate. Can you walk me through that process with one or two?
Well, it starts with something you may have heard before, especially when they're making fun of actors. It starts with the actor knowing what the character's goal is, right? What is the
goal?
What is the character trying to achieve?
Okay.
Sometimes they've called it, when they're trying to be funny, the motivation, right?
Oh, what's my motivation? What's my motivation?
What's my motivation, right?
Right.
But it really is true. It's not necessarily a joke. In order to bring any character to life, I need to know, what is this character trying to achieve? And then I need to let myself try to achieve it. Because every moment in our lives, we're all pursuing a goal, right? Sometimes we have a huge overarching goal that I don't know, we want to be famous, or we want to be rich, or we just want to have a happy life. But then we have minor goals that get to it. In order for us to bring these characters to life, we have to identify all these minor goals and figure out how we live them one moment to the next.
And do students, this discrete piece about the motivation, like the goal, do students, is it usually like a character in a story and you're teaching them about the motivation, and then once they get it, then they move forward, or are they developing the motivation sometimes, and then you're teaching them how to do it,
or
or
is
it?
You have to figure it out, right?
You have to figure it out.
You have to understand a little bit of the psychology of these characters, right?
Okay.
And you're going to find that out from the way the character's been written in the play, and what does the character say, and what does the character experience, what do other characters say about your character, right? And then through that, you're going to be able to develop something that's rich and real and honest, and that's what we're shooting for. And it's not as easy as it sounds.
And those are the activities, right? You're helping them.
Yep.
You're seeing how they see it with your experience. You're able to give feedback on this is or through questioning or asking, and
a lot of that, a lot of questions, we do a lot of exercises to sort of make examples of aspects of acting. How can we find a goal? And then it's more than that, right? Once we know the goals, we want to know what obstacle is standing in the character's way, and what tactics we're using to get around those obstacles. We have to have certain expectations as actors in order to be able to fulfill the truth of them. So there's a lot to it, right?
Well, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, I like the word journey because it's one thing to take a class; it's another thing to go on like a personal development journey or a skill development journey. That journey piece, how much of that do you think most students walk away from, like your classes, but then also program in terms of, because we're developing these skills so that they can perform in whatever the job is, but then and also being a transfer. But then you have that stuff that you can take away that can help in life. So what would you say is?
Well, I would encourage every student to consider theater class.
Right.
Because the theater class might help you, it might help you with your communication skills. Two, it might help you with your ability of sort of identifying certain situations and what's going on and understanding the nature of human behavior. These are great reasons to take an acting class. And whatever you're going to do in life, you could use those skills, right, to better understand a workplace situation, to better understand how to, engage somebody, which could be for business reasons or could be for just interpersonal communication reasons, right? These are great reasons that an acting class could help anybody. And there's been some changes. There are some law schools that have been preferring students or encouraging students with theater degrees to maybe go on to law because they're realizing that the theater degree will help them as lawyers in the future. So
very, very amazing. When you just mentioned the theater, the law school piece, I couldn't help at emotions are a muscle, right? Or at least in my word. Being able to regulate, this is this whole thing of emotional intelligence.
Right.
I don't know what we call it in acting, but it's like it's beyond that, right? It's like channeling it, being able to utilize it. Is that a part of it in terms of regulating oneself?
It's not something we necessarily work on as like a skill, Emotion is not a skill. Emotion is usually a side effect.
Side effect.
It's usually a result of not being able to achieve your goal or be able to achieve your goal. What we need to do is allow ourselves to experience those emotions. We have to allow our characters to be able to experience those emotions.
Oh, that's wow.
Sometimes we're a little restricted, right? We've been taught to hold it in or something like that. And we have to, as actors, let that get out of the way.
So it's more of letting go because you're naturally going to have emotion if you get out the way.
We all know how to do all the emotions. We don't need training in them. We just need to allow them to be.
That's big.
Absolutely.
So you understand the character's motivation, and then you allow those motivations to flow. Not motivations, those emotions relative to what the motivation might be.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
We were chatting briefly even before the show about the when you're saying these transferable skills about the yes and, because I know that's a part of acting.
Right.
And for me, it's been really big in leadership to actually me having like a theater, like a double major. I didn't get my degree, but I was double major for a while. So it was my minor, theater minor. And this whole idea of being able to think, I call it like synthesis thinking, like, okay, so what else can I add to that? So that's another skill that I've seen people who do improv or kind of acting have that kind of ability to try to be curious and think? Is that something that you would say is a?
I would hope so. I hope
Okay.
actors will develop that. Right now, I'm teaching improvisational acting.
Oh, okay,
here at
okay,
Howard
okay.
Community College, and in it, we teach this idea of yes and being the idea that if someone offers you something, an idea within a scene of improv, that you as the scene partner should accept that and build off of it.
And just
right?
keep going, yeah.
Right. That way, the scene develops and continues. But I do think it's a great life lesson, especially for workplace or for idea exchange. You know, when the idea of that someone gives you something, nothing could be worse than to shut that down and say no,
I know.
or to deny it
Or
in
to
some
wait to
way.
shut it down. You're waiting to pounce and shut it
Right.
down. you know?
So what you do is you accept it. And same thing in an improv scene. If I were to improv something and say, your job at the Wendy's is really terrible, and you were to say, I don't work at Wendy's. You know what I mean? The scene doesn't go anywhere.
I know, and that's how it
right?
happens in life sometimes
Yeah.
with things.
And so,
Yeah.
when you offer an idea to someone and they shut it down, then how do we grow from there? And so, I think there's lots of life lessons to be learned from the arts in general.
Yeah, in
Definitely
general.
theater, I
Especially
think
theater.
The dance can be a great sort of place of new ideas and new thoughts and being inspired. I think AVMP, the idea of taking audio and video and this technology and creating, it's the
that
basis
creative.
of film. It's the basis of film and content and all the stuff that we have online. And then the entertainment technology, we can't do these performing arts without the people that support all of that. The theater technology is what we
Yeah,
call it
yeah.
in the past. But now these folks are getting jobs working big events like concerts and touring things and working on Broadway. But they're also working events at conference centers and things like that.
Wow.
And all these things that now need audio video in order for a brand or a company to communicate.
Wow, it's so the audio, video, the dance, the theater. What's the other one that I'm missing?
Entertainment technology.
And entertainment, that ties it all together.
Yeah.
And I can't help but to know that even as a working in leadership or as a even faculty member, there's this concept my colleagues we were working on. It's called embodied pedagogy, right? Where you're kind of like you're in, and sometimes when you do like if you're trained like dancer. There's no one's going to be more bodily kinesthetic intelligent than a person who's a dance.
Right.
But what that does for the brain and kind of just being.
Yeah.
Some of us in spaces, just being in that space, you have to first be in your skin first. So, in addition to what you were sharing about the theater, I can imagine it's really exciting for me to know about all of these items that you're sharing that aren't students coming here just get a degree or to get a credential or to transfer, but more so, as you mentioned, a journey,
Yeah.
so that. Okay, you're getting here from there, or you can get there from here piece, but you're also picking up a lot of these like tools to help you in area of your life and hopefully professionally. So that's pretty exciting when you think about it.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
that amongst my colleagues and I, part of the job we find at a two-year college like ours, a community college, is that we're not just teaching students content, we're actually teaching them how to be students and how to be successful and how to journey out into the world after it, right? We're teaching them kind of how to be human beings.
Wow,
in many
that's
ways.
huge.
And that's kind of my love of learning, right? That is to be able to do that amongst all this other content that I'm able to do it, to try to teach students how to be successful.
Wow, that's huge. It's kind of like it's like drop the mic. You're teaching them how to be human beings,
Yeah.
and that's huge.
So did the high school teachers.
Yeah. So did all the educators, but that's a
But what we're doing, I think we do
Yeah.
it a little bit more. I think actually it's more of a focus for us, a community college, than you'll find at four-year colleges, I think.
And I would say
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I would say at a day and age where technology is there are robots taking over more of what we do.
Yeah.
The value added is being human, right? So like if you have all these robots, let's say we like in like the Terminator type of scene where it's like all these robots, a person's value added is their ability to be a human. And if you're teaching humanists, because there aren't, I haven't seen it a class in, I do. What do you call it? Site visits for institutions as a Middle States peer reviewer. I haven't seen one class on how to be a human.
Yeah.
So, like you were saying earlier, it would kind of be beneficial for folks to
There
take.
is that class. It's called acting.
right? You have that class.
Humans, right?
That's
How to be other humans, but humans nonetheless, and you can learn a lot by walking around in someone else's shoes for a while. Right?
Wow, that's a huge sell.
Yeah.
It's like I'm excited about taking an acting class again.
There you go.
Dance class, and then as you mentioned the audio visual piece, because people are there are folks going to do stuff on their phone, YouTube. But because that was my undergraduate, it was electronic media. There's a science to it. There's a sensibility to understanding how things go together.
Yeah. There's another story to be
There's
told.
another story to be told and a way to tell it most compelling.
Yeah.
So this has been really great. I've actually honestly learned a lot, even though I thought I was familiar. But even the kind of spirit and approach. What would you say are some other aspects of the program that you haven't mentioned that you want to share before we close out that would be good for a person who's interested in coming and, completing a credential or a degree in one of the areas that you provide leadership for, teaching?
I think in all these areas, I think the one thing we do well is we make sure that students have access to connect with professionals in some way in our theater program.
Okay.
When we can have a guest director, and we're definitely using guest designers and people where you bringing in guest lecturers for our classes. Same thing for dance, guest choreographers and guests in the class, as well as our AVMP class, as well as entertainment technology. We're bringing people from the industry in.
That's huge, yeah.
I think one of our last stage management classes had a Broadway stage manager sort of zoom in to talk to the students, and it was a huge success. So I think that we're trying to connect them to these experiential learning opportunities, to give them hands-on experience so that they leave prepared for what comes next.
Very exciting, and I must say for myself, I'm happy to be a part of the. I don't if we refer to ourselves as dragons much, but I'm going to start the Dragon family,
There you go.
because of what impact we have on the community in terms of exposing the community to the arts through a lot of what we do here, like the shows that I've visited recently, and the one that you're doing this weekend, right?
Yeah,
the skin of the teeth. How does it?
Gordon Wilder's The Skin of Our Teeth.
The skin of our teeth. So I think another benefit for students is that they're not only learning the content, the life skills, et cetera, but they are actually impacting, having an ability to impact the community in their exposure to the arts. And we know how essential arts are for society in general, not just for the entertainment element, but all the elements that you had mentioned, right?
Well, I think what we've talked about.
Yeah.
How it ties in.
Yeah.
I think we want people to take these courses not because necessarily they're going to be professional actors, but we want them to learn and become better people.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you being here today. I've learned a lot, and there's so much to dig into. I'll give you one more final words, not necessarily about the program, but just about you or anything that you'd like to say as it relates to your love for learning.
My love for learning is having the opportunity to, make a profound connection within my students' minds. And I hope I do that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can't tell. Sometimes you'll see the little spark go off, and sometimes they'll tell you 3 years later, their spark went off.
Right,
but
right.
I that's what I'm going to keep striving for as a professor, to try to help them make those connections.
Well, thank you. Well, I appreciate you, and I'm pretty sure the loads and loads of students that you've taught appreciate you, and that even the faculty you work with. And I thank you for being on the show. This is really good.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
It's been great. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you for joining us. You can find us on Podbean, Dragon Digital Radio, and then also YouTube. So we all know how to find things on all of those platforms. And I'm so excited that you joined us to hear a little bit more about our love for learning.